With Stop Killing Games, there are two sides. On one hand, you have gamers who don't want to buy a license to a game where they'd only have temporary access until the servers are taken offline. And on the other hand, you have game developers, including Pirate Software, who are concerned with how this would affect the live service game industry. And I hope this can serve as a middle ground or a framework for a middle ground for both parties. A good solution, in my opinion, would require two things. One, for the game dev to patch the client to have the ability to connect to custom servers, and two, documentation. Why? Because I fully understand a company not being able to release a server binary, and there can be many reasons for this. But a company should be able to release a PDF file which contains what a server should respond with when a client issues a request and vice versa. This way, components that the company cannot release don't get released, and if the community wants to keep the game alive, they can use said documentation to build their own server. And speaking of building your own server, I'm going to point to a bit of an extreme example. The WiiMfi servers. Literally 10 days before the Wii servers went offline, these mad lads, without any documentation, had custom servers up and running. And to be clear, these servers weren't made by developers. I like to consider them insane people with keyboards. Because not only did they replicate the functionality of the original servers, they also made it better, extended the functionality, and made the patch for the games as well. And yes, while Wii games were basically busted wide open by this point, reverse engineered in a lot of cases, the fact that they got third-party servers up right when they were needed the most is just impressive. While Mario Kart Wii isn't as server dependent as a lot of modern games today, it will still serve as a great example later, and the only one partially because it's the only one I know off the top of my head, and because I hold a lot of respect for what the community has managed to do with this game. And speaking of games that are entirely server-based, they may still need to be made differently in the future. Things like character models, enemy models, HUD elements, etc. would probably need to be with the client. However, things like damage calculation, location, and other aspects of the game could still be server-side only. And how said information is sent to the client would need to be documented. Now for maps or terrain, I'm not entirely sure if these are stored on the client or are server-side only for these games, but at the end of the day, I don't think it matters. Because using some of what the Mario Kart Wii community created as an example, Midnight Museum, Empty Space, Fiery Factory Fading Frost, Tau Cryovolcano, Stroben's Desert Illusion, and Shy Guy Lumber Company, and many others that are just as good that were made by the Wiimote Jedi. As you can see, people can go and make their own maps and terrain. In fact, some of the earliest tracks that were made by the community were made in MS Paint if I remember correctly. Yes, these maps for Mario Kart Wii are stored with the client, but who says that needs to be the case for modern games that are more server dependent? That just means opening up Blender and creating a map will be a required part for making a custom server. And by extension, that means getting custom servers running for these games would be a pain, but not nearly impossible. And arguably, this could be presented as the best solution because the community could go and re-implement the original functionality, but could also completely change how the game could be played. For instance, they can make completely new game modes that never existed before, and again, I'm going to point at the Mario Kart Wii community here for some examples. Because some keyboard warriors thought regular races were not enough. Hide and Seek, Formula Kart Wii, Item Rain, Blue Shell Showdown, Knockouts, these were in Wii long before they were introduced in the world, and I just found this one, Worldwide Lounge. Yes, they added ranks into the game now, and I'm probably missing a bunch of other modes as well. And don't get me wrong, this would put a huge burden on the community to basically create everything needed for the game to function. And this would actively break one of the components of Stop Killing Games, which is the game being left in a playable state. Because in this case, whether a game is playable or not after the official servers go down would be up to the community to implement and not the publishers or the developers. While not a perfect solution as nothing is, I hope this can serve as a base to form options for these games that are heavily server dependent. And yes, this is a bit hypocritical of me as well. While I'm not a game dev, and some devs would argue that I'm barely a dev with Python being my main language, for now, I have something else in mind that will better fit my current use case. But when it comes time for me to write documentation, even though my projects are stored locally and only for my personal use, I am guilty of looking at it and going, nah, I got better things to do. The point is, developers and documentation are like oil and water. They, including myself, will avoid it at all costs. Also, if you have any topics you would like me to talk about, leave those in the comments because the news cycle has been absolutely trash lately.